What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to a brand new video. Today you join me inside the VW T-Cross for a car review. Now, big thanks to Lani Motors, which is the local VW dealer out here in Zanin. I'll leave all their details down in the description below for any VW related inquiries. Now, I really do hope you guys enjoy this review. Let's get right into it.
Just thinking about this night. As I woke up in the morning, just thinking about this night.
So, the T-Cross first debuted around 2019, shares platforms with the Polo, but it sits slightly taller, it's wider and longer. So it's essentially a crossover, which is a mini SUV. Now, what I like about the T-Cross is that the design looks very clean and very sleek, nothing too fussy and any of that. The body lines are very smooth, edges very smooth, it's boxy but in a very well-rounded way. There are no crazy body lines, no crazy creases and all of that. This particular one is the R line, so it looks slightly sportier and more aggressive than the lower base trims. With the R line, you get this little R line badge right here on the front. But one thing I've noticed is the T-Cross is quite behind in terms of VW's design language. One giveaway is the R line badge. This is the older style R line badge. There are a few other details both inside and out that hint towards that, but otherwise the R line has slightly more aggressive front bumpers. There's all these chrome touches, fog lights, and you do get these high performance LED lights with daytime running lights, which do look really cool. Coming around to the side, you get these Aeroblade style 18-inch wheels, which are also diamond cut, very nice. There's a little R line badge right here on the side. There are some very aggressive shoulder lines, as you can see on the top of the car and the lower bottom. They do help give the car some stance. I do like how the doors curve down here. They make for a very interesting design, and overall the side profile is quite aggressive, especially compared to the front, but not in a bad way. If you come around to the rear, you do get LED tail lights and what looks like a full width light bar, but the center part doesn't light up, which is a shame really, because light bars do actually look cool. But one thing I like about the T-Cross, unlike other VW models, the rear is not fussy. Some other models have like fake exhausts on the R line, and there's none of that here. Very clean. I like that. Let's check out the interior. So, T-Cross interior, one thing I'll mention is that it feels very familiar. It feels a lot like in the Polo, which makes sense because it's the same platform. But otherwise, this one being the R line gets the R line sport steering wheel. I'll just put the car on so we can see some of the features better and stuff. By the way, R line sport steering wheel, physical buttons instead of the touch sensitive buttons that you get in other models and so on. Next, I'll touch upon the seats. These seats, they're both leather and cloth. They look really nice. They do have some kind of quilting, quilted stitching, that is. They're very bulky, very supportive, and like I said, they look really nice. You have all these touch sensitive climate controls. This is part of the modern VW design language and so on. USB-C, you get 2 ports right there, and there's a bit of a storage down here which is rubberized, so stuff you put in there doesn't rattle. Traditional handbrake, the Polo platform still gets this traditional handbrake. One thing that's very awkward about modern VWs is the cup holders, the shaping. They have this kind of hexagonal shape, and I don't think they do a great job at holding stuff in, but yeah, that's just something to note. Another thing I'll touch upon is the quality. Now, the Polo platform doesn't have the best interior quality in terms of the materials used. A lot of the stuff is very hard plastic, like up here and on the bottom sections of the door cards. So even on the dashboard, it isn't like soft touch material, it's all hard plastic. So that's a bit of a drawback. Not a bit, actually, it can be quite a huge drawback. That's just something to note. But otherwise, the interior quality does feel solid, even though the materials themselves are not quite ideal. Everything feels well put together, very solid, and yeah, it's good in that sense. Infotainment screen, lower trims get a smaller screen with buttons on either side. The R line gets the bigger infotainment screen. It's the same system that we've seen in other VW models. One comment I'll mention is that the background is a bit dark, but not too bad. It could do with looking a bit lighter, so menus stand out a bit more. The R line also gets this digital instrument cluster, same as we've seen in Polos and other stuff. Relatively customizable, but like I said, not as customizable as something like MBUX in Mercedes-Benz, but very nice. Resolution is quite high. There's a decent amount of info and all of that. It's quite good actually. And everything else, there are some door pockets on the doors. There is plenty of storage, like this center pocket where you can throw a lot of stuff in there, which also works as an armrest. So yeah, even the glove box, relatively big. Now they've done away, there used to be a CD storer in here, or a CD player rather, and they've done away with it because people no longer use CDs, but it does eat into a lot of the space. But otherwise, a relatively sized glove box. Let's actually check the room in the back. So T-Cross back seat. I'll make another comment about the seats. I do like the look of them. I like the feel of them. Even the rear bench back here feels very solid and very supportive. The cloth feels very high quality. But as you can see back here, there's a lot more space than in the Polo. Headroom, knee room, leg room. There's some space to stretch, but the transmission tunnel is a bit too tall, so it might be a bit awkward moving between the center seat and the left side seat and going back to the right side. So that's something to note, but it's relatively spacious back here. Now there's this very awkward spacing. I don't know what you'd put in there. Well, my phone sits nicely, but yeah, it's quite awkward. 2 USB-C ports, which is very nice. There's no center armrest, which is a shame, so you can't get some relaxation back here, but otherwise very nice back seat, decently spaced, and yeah, I do quite like it. Let's check out the boot space. So T-Cross boot space, 385 liters in boot capacity with the rear seats folded up, and about 455 liters when the rear seats are folded down. But overall, a very nice space, squared off, no loading lip, so it's easy to lift stuff in and out. There is a couple of tie down points, as you can see there, and there. And there's also a decent amount of underflow, so you can chuck more stuff back here. Very nice boot. So this is about 5 liters bigger than, say, in a Golf, and the Polo is around 350 liters, so it's a decently sized boot. Tailgate is a bit too heavy. So trim levels. Now there's 3 trim levels available on the T-Cross. Your base trim is the comfort line, and it starts from this price. Your mid trim is the high line, and it starts from this price. And the top trim is this car, which is the R line, and it starts from this price. Now remember, trim levels simply determine the amount of equipment the car comes with. So the higher up the trim, the nicer the wheels, the nicer the infotainment screens, and all of that jazz. The lower base the trim, the less nice the car will look, essentially. So that's all it has to do in terms of trim levels. Let's chat about all the engine stats. Okay, so engines. Now there's a choice of 3 engine setups and 2 gearboxes. Now the base comfort line comes as standard with the 1 liter turbo 3-cylinder TSI motor with 70 kilowatts, which is around 95 horsepower and 175 Newton meters of torque. That comes mated with the 5-speed manual gearbox. Now you can also upgrade to the 1 liter turbo 3-cylinder TSI motor with the DSG transmission, but in that case it makes 85 kilowatts, which is around 116 horsepower and 200 Newton meters of torque. Now you can choose that engine in the base comfort line and also in the high line, but the high line actually comes as standard with the automatic transmission and the 85 kilowatts setup. Now this car, which is the R line, comes only with a 1.5 liter turbo 4-cylinder, 110 kilowatts, which is around 150 horsepower, and 250 newton meters of torque. Now that's also mated to the DSG transmission. It's a 7-speed, by the way. Even on the 85 kilowatt motor, it's also a 7-speed. Now all cars come as front-wheel drive, and that's pretty much all your engines and gearbox choices or setups. Let's actually experience how this car drives. So, driving the T-Cross, I'm going to start with a quick summary. Now, the T-Cross is very good at what it is, what it stands for, and what it represents. Now, it stands in as a bigger, more practical, more SUV-like Polo, essentially, and it does all those things very, very well. It's very practical. You get this added ride height. Even the dashboard inside here feels like it's been lifted higher. So that very raised ride height is much appreciated. It's much easier to clear stuff when driving in terms of driveways and whatnot. It's not an off-roader. It's not even available with all-wheel drive. So it's simply a more practical, bigger, taller Polo, essentially. And for that reason, it's very much worth it, even at the price point where it's priced at. The only issue is this segment or this class is very crowded. Now there is a lot other alternatives from different other manufacturers and so on, and in many cases the T-Cross is a lot more expensive than alternatives, and there are cars which offer better value for money, offer more equipment and all of that, but I just feel like the T-Cross is a lot more well-rounded. Even the premium feel, let's take the Suzuki Franks for example. Very good, great value for money, a lot of equipment as standard and all of that, but it doesn't quite feel as premium as the T-Cross is. So it's up to you to decide, but like I said, the T-Cross is very much worth it. If you are considering this car, do go for it. Now I'll tap into the driving experience. Now, for one, the suspension feels very solid, feels very comfortable, soaks up bumps very well. Now, often with VW cars, I've experienced that when you hit a harsh bump, the car sort of jolts a bit. That's the only issue. But anything out of the ordinary in terms of bumps and potholes, the car will soak them up very well. Transmission is very smooth, very responsive. You have no idea that there's a gearbox working. It just does its job in the background, and that's pretty much it. This steering wheel, so as to say, very light, easy to maneuver, and you can just literally put in some inputs using fingers. That's how light it is. Another thing about the T-Cross is it's quite tiny in terms of SUVs or raised vehicles, so it's very easy to maneuver into parking spaces, very easy to park. It's available with parking sensors. You can add a reverse camera and so on, so those are also very handy in helping you park and so on. So as you can see, this car is, no car is perfect, but I'd argue that the T-Cross is almost perfect. Well, value and price, that's another thing, but what it's meant to deliver, it's absolutely perfect. It's up to you if you like the brand, if you like the car, if you like how it looks, if you like what it offers. But if all those things check, then it's absolutely worth it. So I won't really comment on the engine. I mean, this 1.5 liter, there is a decent amount of power and torque, so it's easy to overtake, it's easy to get up to speed. So I don't feel like it's necessary to even talk about the engine and the performance, because for every day-to-day use, it does the job well, literally. So that's how I'd summarize the T-Cross. I really do hope you guys enjoyed the video, and until next time, that's cheers from me.